Okay, Chevra. So, Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly series of Shirim in the Ramchal, Schus Yogan Aleinu's Biur on the Ijur Rabbah, the Adir Bamarom. And yesterday, the night before, Yesod Shabi Yesod was the Yahrtzeit of Rabbeinu Moshe Chaim L'Tzato Schut Yogan Aleinu. We had the schus to speak about him and think about him over Shabbos. But ultimately, we're picking up from where we left off before the Yahrtzeit, but now with a renewed strength through the Hilula of this tzaddik to draw down more and more of his light. We're a generation of the Ramchal. We're mamish a generation of the Ramchal. The Ramchal represented a hispashtus, an extension outwards that was applied to each and every stream of Jewish experience. As the Nazir HaKadosh points out, that everybody loved the Ramchal. The Maskilim loved the Ramchal because of his literature, Kavyachol, and his poetry, Kavyachol, and those plays which were beautiful, and Kavyachol because it's the Oisias HaTorah. And the Hasidim loved the Ramchal because of Klach Piskei Chochmah, as is known from the Haskamos, and Bali Musar and Bali Lita, Talmidei Hagra loved the Ramchal as a result of Adir Bamarom and Mesil Sisharim, as the Heilige Vilna Gaon Schus Yogen Aleinu said that the first 10 prakim are Kimat, the perfect book. And the Kimat is so important because there's no book more than Mesil Sisharim that teaches us that any perfection is just Kimat. There's no perfectibility, there's just Ruach HaKodesh. But the human being has to realize their chisaron. That's the secret of anava b'machshava, that shiftless in the mind, that anava that the Ramchal speaks about, that need to recognize that thinking is just a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is just a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mamish. So nothing is perfect. And that's why the Gra says it's Kemat, the perfect book. Kemat, the perfect book. And everybody, and we love the Ramchal, and we're connected to the Ramchal because the Ramchal is a light of Pnimiyas Torah in such potency and such strength and such courage, with such a willingness to see the good in all things in the light of Rabbi Akiva entering into the territory of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of transforming Yisurin into a derech of Ahava and Menucha in Eretz Yisrael itself. That the Ramchal, the Nazir says, is ultimately the gift that keeps on giving, and that the light of the Ramchal is what allows the awakening in Eretz Yisrael, where there's the growth of prophecy and the growth of nevuah and the sproutings of nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh and an inner hearing and in the audio logic of what it means to be a Yid and the Hegyon Libi Lefanecha, the inner sound of the head kol mehar Sinai and that shofar that reverberates within the self and the silent call of Bina within each and every one of us. This secret of the Kol Hashimi, this inner voice that Rabbeinu Haramchal drew down, the light of Bina b'sharasho. And so we're drawing down, we're trying to go deeper with the Ramchal, to give us chizuk, to give us strength, to give us confidence, to give us the ability to see our moment in history in the context of what the tzaddikim understood our moment in history would be, and to believe in the words of the tzaddikim, and to rely on the words of the tzaddikim, and to take joy in the words of the tzaddikim, and to take joy in the existence of the Torah and the existence of the possibility of having more and more emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu every moment, and to be miyachid yichudim in every ounce of our experiences, to find Hashem in front of us, above, below, to the side, everywhere revealed, to enter into the deepest chambers of Yichud, to be aware of the fact that everything is good, that ultimately this is the secret, this is the quintessential drop of Pnimiyas HaTorah, through the lens of Rabbeinu Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, Schus Yogan Aleinu, is that it's the Side HaYichud. It's the Side HaYichud that the world operates in accordance to two hanhagos. There are two split screens that are ultimately engarbed one upon the other. That the externalized screen is something referred to as hanhagas hamishpat, the nature of judgment and right and wrong and the cause and effect and all of the difficult circumstances of what it means to be human beings in history and all of the goodness that comes about with that. And then interior to that screen is the secret of Hanhagas HaYichud, which is the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always pushing the world upwards in a state of perpetual evolution upwards, better and better, every second, rectification upon rectification, fixing upon fixing, beneath, inside, beyond us, ultimately leading to a place of the revelation that this middle period that appears so devoid of the connectivity of the beginning and the end, we come to find Samcheinu ki sanisanu. Samcheinu ki sanisanu. Gladden us like the days of our affliction, to say that Es tsarahi liyakov umimenu yivashea. Specifically, Daika from within that place, Mimenu yivashea, the Leda of Mashiach takes place. This is the secret of the Yichud of the Rosh and the Seifa, the light of Rabbeinu Haramchal, the Gilui of the Sof. And that sof is unending, it's open. The Ramchal's light is a light of each and every yid, it's a light of all of the tzaddikim, just as all of the true tzaddikim are. But the light of the Ramchal, the Mesilas Yesharim, is the preparation to enter into the Razin of Pnimiyas SaTorah lived in the light of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. The secret of Chasidus embedded within Mesilas Yesharim is the emergent spring from whence the Baal Shem Tov springs shout forth. I heard this from my Rebbe of Moshe Weinberger Shlita, that the Shara Hasidus is one of the most important places of understanding and the contextual arrangement of what the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov looks like. That the Ramchal comes to Eretz Yisrael in light of the Ramchal and Ikvas of the Mashiach is the light of the awakening of taking our inner lives seriously with bittul and simcha and joy and affirmation of the moment to the best of our capacity to say yes to the world, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence, to hope in a future, to hope in redemption, to hope in a land of Eretz Yisrael, to hope to the Bechina of Eretz Yisrael, to hope in every ounce of ourselves, to hope, to hope, to hope, an affirmative hope. Everything about Rabbeinu Haramchal is light of the Kav and Kivoy. Kivoy, Kaveh El Hashem Yachlifu Koyach v'Kaveh El Hashem. Liyishuascha kivisi Hashem. Liyishuascha kivisi Hashem. I yearned for your salvation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kivoy, the drush of the Kivoy of Rabbeinu Haramchal is the deepest secret of all time. It's the secret of yearning and yearning and yearning and yearning beyond the capacity to yearn forward and to yearn backwards, and the secret of Koive Hashem Yachlifu Koyach Yave Ever Kanasharim, as Rabbeinu Haramchal points out. The whole inyan of Rabbeinu Haramchal is the inyan of Kivoy. Liyeshuascha kivisi Hashem. The light of Shevet Dan, the light of that last Shevet that's pushed out of the clouds, that are attacked by Amalek, Kanachashalim Acharecha, where the Nachash has access, but it's specifically there that Shevet Dan and Machane Dan decide to transform their deficiency, which is being kicked out as a result of being the end, and they transformed it into the task of returning lost objects to the Jewish people. Of Hashavas Aveda, the light of Geula, the light of returning lost objects. All Avedos are by the Tzaddik. It's the Gvuras Halev that Rabbeinu Haramchal had to take his spirituality seriously. And we see this in his Talmidim, Ram Duvali, Schus Yogan Aleinu, the Italian Mekubalim. That light of the inner Yud Gimel Tikkune de Dikna, the Giluyim of the Tikkunim that came about in every person's experience. They took their experiences seriously. They understood Hashkacha Pratis. They lived with Hashkacha. That was what Kivoy meant for Rabbeinu Haramchal. That Habitachon shel emes hu hakivoy ha'amiti. It's the true form of hoping only to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says that all a person is really responsible for in this world is the hope that they have to extricate themselves and untether themselves from whatever stuckness they find themselves in this particular moment. The belief in the perpetual ascension that Machane Dan had, which was a lost object, let me utilize it to be Makayim a mitzvah, to return a lost object. Prior to losing something, it wasn't the chiddush that a person had it. After losing something, a person yearns for it. Returning something that's lost is including that deficiency and that sense of distance into the secret of unity, which is the Tosefes Kishut, which is to create the benefit of being conscious in this moment of Bechira, to choose to see the Yichud that is going to be revealed in light of the Yichud of the trained Mashiachin, the two elements of the self, of the here and the now, and that which is going to be, and to draw the future into the present. This is the secret of the Gvuras Halev of Shimshon. Rabbi Nachman says that the Gvuras Halev of Shimshon is what gives a person the confidence of overcoming any battle that we find ourselves in. And the battles rage in our own hearts, as Rabbeinu Haramchal tells us in the introduction to Mesilas Yesharim, not the introduction in the first parak, that to be in this world is to be thrown into an always already raging battle, with bullets whizzing by your head without knowing which way to go. And the only way to exit the battlefield is to look upwards towards those neshamos and those tzaddikim who are already a stage beyond, who have gone through the maze and now have a vantage point of the pathways, that the Mesilas Yesharim, the Mesilos B'Levavam, the pathways of the heart to lead back to Ruach HaKodesh, to lead back to the place of L'cha Amar Libi Bikshu Panayas Panecha Hashem Avakesh. That's what the tzaddikim are being megalit to us. And this Gvuras Halev, the Mesilas B'Levavam, the Milchama that maybe Rabbeinu is talking about, that the strength of the heart of Shimshon gives you the strength to overcome any of the battles, then it could be that it's the battle that Rabbeinu Haramchal is explaining as the Metzias of this Welt, where a person has to overcome the menios and find goodness and be mamtik zayin and to daven at every moment to say, Horeini Hashem darkecha as halich ba'amisecha v'yached levavi b'yirat shmecha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, show me the pathways of your truth so that I can yearn to you for truth and that I could connect myself to you at every moment. These formulas that the tzaddikim revealed to us, the secret of Ruach HaKodesh, that Rabbeinu Haramchal has planted within Nishmas Yisrael, that all of the tzaddikim amitim do. But this kivoy, this tikvas emes, Rabbeinu Ramchal says that even if a person finds themselves in Gehenna, in the elements of Gehenna, in this world, in that world, wherever the Gehenna of the self is in this particular moment, as Rabbeinu said, that this world itself has the aspect of Gehenna, and Meila, it has the aspect of getting out of Gehenna, and the place of Gehenna is also going to be the place of the feast of the Levyasan, because it's going to be the only place big enough to hold all of Nishmas Yisrael. And I saw from the Heilige Rishner today the light of Malchus, that Rabbeinu Haramchal is Yisoid should be Yisoid, the element of Mashiach ben Yosef, which leads to Eretz Yisrael, which is the secret of Malchus. But the secret of that Ir and Kadishin, he says that if only the Rishayim and Klal Yisrael knew, meaning to borrow that phrase, to describe people who feel that they're kind of pushing away against God, if only we knew how close we were to God, it would make us uncomfortable. It would make us uncomfortable to feel that, look, I'm trying to distance myself a little bit. God forbid, when a person finds themselves wherever they find themselves. And if we truly understood, anytime a Yid feels that they're straying from God, if a person truly understood the depths of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that very moment, then they would be overcome by the Giloi. They would be overcome by the Giloi. Gal einai va'abita neflos misarasecha. And this is the light of Rabbeinu Haramchal, the gift to see through kivoy, through a lens of kivoy, that hope has the ability of breaking us out of hell. Even if a person finds themselves enclosed in a circle that has no beginning and no end, and no exit point, and no pivot point through which the person can render themselves powerful, so to say, over the present moment mania and get to the next level, it seems that it's closed off. It seems rachok mimeni. But ultimately, the secret of the kav and the secret of the kivoy and the tikva is that the kav has the ability of ascending up from wherever a person is and breaking through the barriers themselves and going directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kivoy hope is not dependent on any other qualities of self. Kivoy is an independent strength. Kivoy is a point, as my dear friend Dr. Benji Epstein wrote about recently on the Ramchal's Yahrtzeit. Kivoy is the ability to break through barriers, and it is independent of all other factors. It is fundamental in and of its own strength to break through the restriction of the present moment and to extend into the future orientation and to draw that non-existent future orientation back into the present moment, so that now the previously saturated present moment suddenly has more space. More space is given. That's the Gevuras Halev that Rabbeinu Haramchal is giving. And it's our job to bring Rabbeinu Haramchal and the light of Ramchal to the Bechin of Eretz Yisrael, to Eretz Yisrael Mamish, the creativity of the Tashma, of an inner hearing, which ultimately is revealing itself over and over in the persistent hope that we have every moment of Odio Ter Tov, of the Shvil Lo Yadaya Ayat and the Nesiv Lo Yadaya Ayat, Ayin Yud Taf, which is Od Yoter Tov, the secret that things are perpetually getting better. This is the light of Rabbeinu Moshe Chaim Latzato. Yesoid should be Yesoid, the Gamzu Latova of it all. The secret of finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the here and now, in spite of the fact that the here and now, by definition, must be the point of mergence between the then and the that which will be, which means that we will always feel that delay, but nevertheless, in spite of the delay of the Emsa, we can draw that future knowledge of the Yichud HaEloki down into this moment, and we can see our world in our days. We can draw down Yichudim. We can draw down the Gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light. This is what the Ramchal gave to us. All of the tzaddikim give it, but the Ramchal, in a particular way, organized it in such a respectable way that we can feel confident in our belief systems, that we know the receipts, we have the receipts behind our thoughts. When we look back to the Ramchal, all of the elements of the Ramchal, and this is true for all of the books of the tzaddikim, that we must rely upon the books that were written prior to us. It is not enough for a person to develop their own language. The only hope that we have is the reliance upon the previous generations of the tzaddikim and the secret of the Nahar Hayotzim Eden Lahashkes Sagan V'Yispardu La'abereshim. There is a singular Nahar Hayotzim Gan Eden, the light of Pnimiyas Torah, the light of the tzaddikim ha'amitim. And as long as we extend that light down into all of the extensions of self, then that creativity is ultimately going to be reflective of the Ruach HaKodesh that the tzaddikim gave us. The capacity to see our lives and our days, to go on a path and find Ruach HaKodesh. and enter into that place of tchilaso avoida v'soifei matana, that the beginning of experience in this world is effort, and in the end, after all is said and done, it's always going to be a gift. Which is funny when we conceive of the Ramchal's entire system being based on the fact that we don't want to receive a full gift, a free gift, because there's a certain amount of shame. But all of our effort is going to come to reveal to us that there's nothing we can do to possibly come to deserve anything other than a free gift. Ve'eschanan el Hashem be'esahi, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe Chaim Letzato, the tzaddikim yearn to draw themselves with chuka and kilyon and nefesh to enter into Eretz Yisrael, to enter into the Heichal Hashvi, to that place of unity of mind and spirit and body, and to do mitzvos, maisios, and to walk and to feel connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the continuous gift that the tzaddikim give us. When we say Schus Yogan Aleinu, when we say Schus Yogan Aleinu, that his merit should protect us, we also mean that aside from all of the things that we don't know, the one drop of what we possibly do know, which is that the teachings are salvic, they're redemptive, they're healing. Rabbeinu Haramchal is a pharmacy, and there's shelves and shelves in the pharmacy, and there's different dosages of what a person can get from the Ramchal, and it's a secret of healing, of a Samha Chaim, a Torah that gives life, and a Torah that continuously persists in giving us hope. The Mesilas Yesharim, the path to Ruach HaKodesh, to believe that we're worthy of Ruach HaKodesh, to believe that we can quiet down the inside noise, and by way of quieting down the inside noise, we can open ourselves up to reveal the inner noise to the outside world, and to draw down Yichud for all to see, as if we become vehicles and in our lives of being Megala Yichud, of seeing Hashem in everything, or as quickly as we can, returning back to the knowledge that Hashem is everywhere, and ultimately coming to a place of the Amuna Kol Zos, and that in the end of the day, Leis Machshava Tfisa Beklal. And that even though we know that itfasu berusa deliba, there's no such thing as a hasag of atzmusi yisbarach, because kedushasi lamalim kedushasechem, and nothingness always precedes and exceeds our capacity of grasp. But to learn the klalim and to enter into the taste of it, into the shape of it, into experiencing it in our day-to-day lives, that's how we live with the light of Rabbeinu Haramchal. And all of the tzaddikim who engaged with Rabbeinu Haramchal, that everybody agreed that the light of the Ramchal was a light that would continue to give, because it's our job to transform the world of Rabbi Akiva and the Mesiras Nefesh into the world of Rabbi Shimon and the secret of Menuchas Emes Sha'at Rotzeba, and to Be'ezras Hashem draw the ore of the Ramchal, that ore of Gamzu Latova, that ore of Yichud into our lives, and to feel good about ourselves, and to feel good about the people that we're with, and to make the people that we're with feel good about themselves, and to do mitzvos with Emunah and with a bittul hadas, and to think about the Shem Havaya, and to think about Mashiach, and to anticipate only good things, and to see through any veil of concealment that might cover over a person's eyes, or that might cover over a person's ears, to ultimately utilize every ounce of our strength and our acting and our perseverance and the architectonics of faith and the acrobatics of faith and all of the different coping mechanisms of faith that enable us to ultimately come back to that place of the emuna kol zos, derech emuna b'charti, that chay katov lahetiv, and that ultimately the only truth that has to be known is that the world is created for an ultimate good, and that must be translated by way of tainug, by an inner place of pleasure. So all of history has been teaching us what pleasure is not. We can say, by way of negative theology, so to say, that pleasure is an inaccessible experience. The grandiosity of history has taught us that what pleasure is not. We continuously think we find it, and then we come to realize that that's not it. And ultimately, that's when all of the weapons are revealed towards the end, where physicality seems to convey some element of a sustenance. And it's our job to recognize that Tainug is something that's not felt. Tainug is something that is felt in the unfeltness of itself, and the secret of not moving, not being mizdazeya. That when a person is encountering HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're not shaking. They're not shaking and they're not trembling, but rather they're present. There's a hashra, there's a menuchas emes shatar otzeba, there's a bitul muchletes, there's a sheket. There's an inner quietude that emerges, which reveals the head call of Nevuah, the Ruach HaKodesh, L'cha amar libi bikshu panayis panecha Hashem avakesh. The ikr way that we have this is hisbodedus and tefillah and hope. What's most unique about Rabbeinu Haramchal, and especially in the Nachal Nevei Makor Chochma, the light of Rabbi Nachman, is that the tzaddikim say, the mashpiyim say, that before Rabbi Nachman would accept a person as a chassid or a talmid, I don't know the exact details of it, but the recommendation would to be to learn Mesilas Yesharim, Mesilas B'Levavim, to carve path within the heart. And surprised to say, it's not a surprise, but just as Rabbi Nassan transforms the Torah of his Rebbe into the tefillos of Likutei Tefillos, because the ikar is to transform the Torah into a tefillah, to break through the concealment of the mind, to irrigate the watery territory of the heart, to awaken ourselves to Ruach HaKodesh, and to the Giloy of Karvel Nafshi Giyaleh, and to a moment of goodness and a Simcha Mirav Kol. that in addition to Rabbi Nosson, the Ramchal himself, Schus Yogan Aleinu, as we've spoken about, we have in our generation just small copies of it itself, which is an act of redemption itself. But the tefillos of the Ramchal, where he also took all of his Torahs and all of his gematrios and all of the Yechudim and transformed them into a tefillah, and a tefillah that ends ultimately with Liyeshuascha, Kivisi Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we yearn for your salvation, we yearn for Rachamim Rabim, and every Yid has the capacity to rely upon the tzaddikim and to demand, based on the books that we hold from our ancestors and from the ancestors of our ancestors and the tzaddikim whose lifeblood courses through our neshamos in each and every generation, but ultimately the true tzaddikim have the biggest expression, and to utilize what they said to demand, to ask from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to find Yishuv Hadas and Menucha and Geula Shlema and all of the good things that Klal Yisrael can imagine that they need and what they can't even imagine that they need, and we should continue to be silly with ourselves and have a tefach sochik and to never take the self seriously, but have anava b'machshava and to be zoichet to a simcha amitis, which is the geula shlema of the moment, and then that leads to more and more good be'ezras Hashem. Schusi yogen aleinu. And we should continue, Bezras Hashem, for many, many years, Ad Vias Goyal Tzedek, and on to continue to learn the words of the Tzaddikim and to drink from those well springs that continue to spread forth in the secret of Hafatzas Ma'ayanos and the Yechudim Kamoischa and the light of all of the Tzaddikim and the living Tzaddikim and the Talmidim Achayim. And we should be Zoichet to everything good that every ounce of Nishmas Yisrael deserves, comfort and relief and all of the good things that each and every person wants, and to feel good and to feel safe, and only good things in light of the Tzaddikim Amitim, Be'ezras Hashem.